Hey, everybody, it's the KYG Y2K podcast, bringing you the best of 2000s nostalgia for as long as I feel like this being the format. Our topic today, we're going to talk our first video game episode, might be our only one. We'll see. We're talking PlayStation 2. Joining us today is my friend, great comedian, up and coming. Check him out, Rob Stant. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, what's up? Thanks for having me on your podcast. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we found a topic because I wanted to have you on. But as we're going to discuss, you and I have a bit of an age gap. So particularly something that's bound together in years was going to be a little tricky. But you mentioned PS2, which I hadn't considered. But then I immediately like, oh, you know what? That actually did have quite an impact on my life. We should talk about that.
So when you think of PS2, what are the first two games that come to mind? Because I wanna figure out where exactly our age gap is. Like, you think PS2, like, what are your first two games?
The first things I think of aren't even games. I think of the DVD player.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
But if we're talking games, not even weighing my answer for public perception, I would say Resident Evil 4, Silent Hill 2.
Oh, okay. Because my first two were Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and then like Tony Hawk, like Underground.
See, this is one of the before we get into this, let everybody know where we could find you on the internet.
Oh yeah, just all my socials are Rob Stant Comedy. As TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter sucks. Don't even bother going there. Yeah. No, Twitter's, I don't know. I'm on there.
Me and Neil Wood were talking about Twitter last night. We both came to the agreement that like there's nobody happy and mentally healthy on Twitter.
Oh no, every time I open it, I'm like, it's like I feel bad and I want to feel worse. That's
exactly. But you're also a Twitch streamer, right?
Yeah. So before I started doing stand-up, I streamed on Twitch like every night. And then I was like, oh, let me start doing stand-up. And then now it's like, oh, I stream on Twitch when I can. Because, you know how it is when you're like trying to like grind out sets and like figure out bits. Yeah. You gotta, like, fucking hit so many mics. It's stupid, crazy. Yeah. But I want to get back into like have it like streaming more. And I have a podcast coming up soon and I'm going to start. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. What's the podcast going to be on?
It's just going to be me rambling probably. Like, I don't like just because I post a lot of jokes and stuff on Instagram and stuff. And I just kind of want to like give more of like a window into like what's going on in my day and stuff. And it's probably going to be, I don't know how it's going to go, but it's going to be one of those podcasts where it's like, it's just me talking and maybe I'll have like guests occasionally, but more like one of those things where I just ramble on about like what happened and like things I can't make jokes about that wouldn't work in a format, but it's like, oh, this is funny to talk about, you know? Because I'm sure you've had like things where it's like, man, this is really funny, but like I don't know if I can turn it into a joke.
Yeah, I mean, you're an entertaining guy. I think you'll be able to be good at that. But my whole thing is just I had no idea how to market myself as a like I pretty much all my favorite podcasts are like shooting the shit podcasts where whatever comes up. But again, just being like a fucking nobody out in Philly, like I just did not know how to push that. Some people have figured it out. Not me, but again, I think you have such a strong social media base that you'll probably do pretty well with that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So when you started Twitch streaming, because again, I also kind of want to pursue this. So here's a fun fact: I have not bought a video game console since the PlayStation 2.
Oh wow, Yeah, so this is, geez, we're really hitting it hard on this.
Yeah. Huh? I am very much a retro gamer, and I'm not even saying that in the cool way. I'm saying like. I like the simplicity of the old like 8-bit, 16-bit era games. And part of that is also just I know my own personality. The only like latter day game franchise I got into was like Left 4 Dead, which I played on my brother's console. But it feels like modern video games are like such a time suck that like I have to actively keep myself away from them.
Yeah, wow, PS2. So you didn't even have like a Xbox 360 or like PS3 or any of that?
I had access to an Xbox 360, but just my brothers got it, and I was at the age where I was working. A lot of times I wasn't even living at home.
Gotcha.
But
so you're busy.
Yeah, I was busy, but again, I dipped my toe in enough to be a little bit aware of what's going on. So when you
Gotcha.
started Twitch, what were you playing?
So when I started streaming on Twitch, so Fortnite was popular,
Hmm.
and I think that's what everybody like hopped on. They're like, "Oh, I'll try Fortnite," and it was just mostly just me goofing around with my friends, and like we're trying to build like sky castles. Like I wasn't good at the game, so like I immediately threw out any expectations of like this stream is going to be good. Like people would join it, and I'd have like a sky castle, and I'd be like just like doing dumb shit. And then I got bored of that really quick, so then I just started like going through my Steam library because I had a gaming PC, and like I never really streamed much on it before. Like but I was playing games on it forever, so I had a bunch of like Steam games to go through. So I think I played like Fallout 3 a lot. I played a decent amount of like Call of Duty because that was fun to chat with and play. Pretty much just like any like a lot of indie games, like horror games are fun to play because people like to watch you freak out.
Mhm.
I think one of the Resident Evils, like the Resident Evil 4 reboot or Resident Evil 2 reboot. I forget which one. One of the reboots
It was
that came
probably
out.
the Resident Evil 2 because that was the big one that was like a few years ago.
When that one came out, the one that had Mr. X in it.
Mhm.
Where that was really like really fun. I played Breath of the Wild because I don't have my Switch in here now, but I used to have my Switch hooked up to my Elgato and I could stream that. So I played a lot of that. I played through the entire Breath of the Wild series on stream. And that was a lot of fun because all my friends who were watching me play had already beaten it. So they got to watch me experience the game for the first time and they were going nuts.
Were you always like the entertaining one in your group of friends?
Oh no, I'm always I feel like anytime I hang out with my friends, I'm like the accessory to the group. Like I'm kind of like just there. I'm more of like observing, especially like because a lot of my friends are so much funnier than me. And like when I feel like when I hang out with them, it's like I'm just there to like watch them. So yeah, I don't think I've ever been even before I started doing comedy, a lot of my non-comedian friends are just so goofy. And I think that's what made me want to like transition into comedy too, is like, oh, I want to be funny, you know?
Mhm. See, I had a different but similar experience in college. All my friends were like actors; they were all like film people. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many people I met with this group of friends that I would later run into, and they'd be like, "Oh, I thought you were so shy when I met you before." Like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, 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 no." Those guys are like fucking pathological attention seekers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not particularly entertaining, but like, like give me my spotlight, Mr. DeMille, like those kind of
Oh,
fucking people. So I can't
actors.
exactly. So I came off as like quiet and observant, where truth was like I'm just not gonna yell over these idiots to get,
You were normal. Yeah, you were normal.
yeah, normal-ish. I was still a musician. I was still broken in some way. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, before in between Twitch and like stand up, I took a bunch of acting classes and I thought that's where I wanted to go. And I did like some background work. Like I was in that show, Mayor of Easttown
Oh no
that came
shit.
out. I was in the background on that. I did like 4 different shoots for it, but like you can't see me in the show. It's like all blurry. I'm like, I think that's me because I scrubbed it like frame by frame, and I was like, where am I in this? And
Mhm.
it's not worth it. Like unless you have a speaking role as an actor, it's like so it's so boring. It's fun. It's fun to check it out, like to see what it's like to be on set. But other than that, it's like I don't know. At least that's my opinion. There are people who like it's like their full-time job is they're just extras in movies like every night, and I'm like, holy shit, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had experience doing that with because I ended up doing some film work with those actor friends,
Mm,
and I'd get like featured extra part,
okay.
like shit like that. But at the same time, the last film set I was on was for one of the Gilly and Keeves sketches where I was one of the extras, and same thing. I just got bad seating in the frame, so
Oh yeah,
I can see my back in some angles.
I got you. What was that, the wedding one or?
Yeah, it was the wedding one.
Okay, yeah, I saw a lot of familiar faces in that.
Yeah, it was actually kind of
I
fun
saw your
just because.
back. I was like, that's Jesse's back.
Hopefully my work didn't see me. I still work from home, but like I brought my laptop to set. Like, let me see if I can get away with this. And of course, like my hotspot didn't work at all. It's like, okay, well, I'm just not working today.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those days where you're like, oh, I'm working from home.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's get into the history of the PlayStation here. Just gonna
Okay.
throw some facts out there, interrupt anytime you can think of something interesting.
Okay.
So Burp. That is the first thing I have. The
So you want me
burp.
to just yeah, that's actually so the burp came out in 2002.
Yes,
Um,
it was the burp was announced by PlayStation 2 President Yurichi. I'm not going to make up. Is it racist to make up a Japanese name at this
hey,
point?
well, guess what, buddy? You already started, so you better go all in, okay? Because you started it, and now it's like now if you don't do
Yuniyoshi
it,
Akira.
there you go. That was actually really good.
Actually,
So I'll give
this
you.
was
It's
like,
I think it's only racist if you do a bad one.
yes. All right, hold on. I'm actually googling Yuniyoshi Akira. Fuck. You know what's actually coming up? The racist character that Mickey Rooney played in Breakfast at Tiffany's. I fucked up.
Okay.
All right. Not the good one. So it was a 6th generation console, meaning it was competing with the Dreamcast, the GameCube, and the Xbox. Released March 4th, 2000 in North America,
Ooh.
which, blew my mind how fucking long this thing was in production. Apparently, it has one of the longest production cycles of any video game system because it was basically they were producing these things from 2000 to like 2013 before they stopped,
Okay.
which is
Wow.
an
Yeah.
absurd length of time.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I remember hearing that like apparently like the last PS2 game ever manufactured was like one of the FIFA games, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have that in your fact list, but I think that was like that's the first thing that comes to mind is how long the PS2 was running.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
It was called Pro Evolution Soccer 2014.
oh, okay. Wow. So it wasn't FIFA, but it was a soccer game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, and I think that was when the PS4 was out by then, right? When the 2014, I want to say. Had to have
Probably.
been.
I could look that up real quick.
Because
Hold on.
yeah, because the PS4 was like a 7-year console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, PS4 was out in 2013.
Okay, so wow, so the PS2 lapped the PS4 kinda.
Mm-hmm.
Two generations.
It's one of the interesting things you find out about this, like how a lot of video games are made, and this is going to come up again in the history, is that like once pretty much they make the console and then they'll develop like a developer pack for like the game companies to use. So basically just like, these are our specifications. This is what you have to work with. And then from there, like it's really out of Sony's hands. It's whoever the fuck wants to make it. Like they have to apply for like some kind of license, I think. But overall, they can just run roughshod. Realistically, there is no reason why somebody couldn't put together a PlayStation 2 game right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like to think, I think that would get a lot of like publicity. Like if you like, what if you were like, what if you're like, hey, I'm releasing this game, and you're like, oh, what console? Oh, it's PS2 exclusive. That would blow my. I would buy a PS2. I'd be like, I have to play it. Like it's PS2 exclusive.
That would be great if you could make one of the best games ever that people had to like dig up and find like their old consoles laying around somewhere.
I'm surprised Hideo Kojima hasn't done something like that because now that's a real name.
My boy.
Yeah, because he's always like doing crazy shit with video games and stuff. And I'm surprised he hasn't been like, oh, you have to like get a PS2 and then like tape it to a PS1 and then make a PS3 and then like, but yeah, that's I never thought about I guess technically anybody could just make a PS2 game.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you could technically play like anything on computers. So, like I said, with my retro gaming thing, I have you know what a retro Pi is?
Oh yeah, is it like a cherry pie or whatever they call them?
Yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi, but
Raspberry
it's set
Pi.
up. But so you can get like all the old video games on it illegally, but it's all like mostly abandonware for the most part. Okay. But the thing is, the thing only has the processing power to play like most PlayStation 1 games and like 3 Nintendo 64 games. Once you get past that, it's kind of like a no man's land until the processing power catches up.
Gotcha. Okay.
So to do something with a PlayStation 2 game would be the perfect avenue with that, just because like aside from like emulators that only like the most gamerific people are going to figure out, like, yeah, you really would not be able to play that on an emulator as well.
I want to see like, you ever see like the videos where like people try to trade in fake games into GameStop? Like they go through, they make like a PS4 game. It's like, I don't know, I'm like cleaning my house or whatever, or like whatever it is, like they make some stupid ass game and they get a Blu-ray disc and then they make like a fake, like a whole like fake label for the disc and a whole fake label for the case. And they go into GameStop with like a stack of these fake games. They're on YouTube. You should like, if you have like 15 minutes to kill, look up like trading in fake games into GameStop. And it's just so funny. And it makes me think like, I guess like, like it's just so weird how you could like the way like 3D printers work and all these like technology and shit. You could easily like. I always wondered that with like what's stopping somebody from like taking a copy of like Grand Theft Auto 5 or like making like a fake Grand Theft Auto 5 and trading it in for like, you know, what, making money off of it. Like, but I guess it all the work to make all that shit and then like barely make a profit isn't worth it.
Yeah,
But I always thought about that because I used to work at GameStop.
So yeah, you would need to do it for like,
know?
I would think pranksterism, just because I don't think there'd be any way to get a solid profit out of that. You know, it's hilarious that whole thing happened this year with like the GameStop stock exchange with like everything shooting up, just because I feel like GameStop did not have a great reputation amongst gamers for a long time. Like even going back way back, like just the trade-in value, like you could buy a game, trade it back in 5 minutes later, and it's only worth $10 suddenly.
Yeah, I used to work there, and the way I had the same perspective, I was like, man, this is like, because it was with the new Call of Duty specifically. So the new Call of Duty would come out, and you know, people would play it, for like a month or whatever, and then trade it in, and then get like what, like 20-30 bucks for it, maybe. And then people would be so pissed. They'd be like, oh, well, what the fuck? Like, it's on the shelf for like 55. Like, this is a new game. And the part of the thing is, like, when you go, we had like after like the first month of Call of Duty would come out, GameStop has like a mountain of Call of Duty copies, and they're like, and they're like in their back storage. And a lot of times their profit margins aren't that high, which is why they're doing so poor. I don't know how it is at the stock market now, but they were doing so poorly, at least on the storefront side. That's why they started selling so many like toys and t-shirts and shit.
Yeah, as more of it went to like streaming and download, like it kind of completely cut GameStop's role in the market out of it.
Oh yeah, and like the only thing I miss about GameStop like is like the midnight releases, because that was fun. Because I was really into those. Like I remember, I think it was like I want to say like 9th or 10th grade, whenever Modern Warfare 3 came out. It was like not even one of the good Call of Duties. Me and my buddies, at school ended at like 2, and the midnight release was at midnight, and we went from school at 2:00 and camped out front of the GameStop until midnight, from 2 p.m. to midnight, because we wanted to be the first ones in line. And it was a lot of fun. There was like a Taco Bell across the street, so we just took turns like holding the spot and like getting food, and there was like a grocery store next door, and it was like the perfect place to like camp out. It was a beautiful day, and stuff like that is like, oh man, I miss that. But also I could just click download on my fucking computer now.
Oh yeah, so I had a similar thing with that. You do kind of miss the fun thing. Like you see old videos of like people camping out for concert tickets or whatever, and obviously people will still do that for like shitty MCU movies, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But I just remember the joy of release day, even like even like DVDs that there wasn't a lot of demand for. Like me and my cousin would go to Walmart and be there at midnight on Thursday so we could get the new fucking Grounded for Life DVD. Like, again, shit nobody was waiting for, but fuck, it was such a good time. I remember like 2007, 2008, me and my buddy were like hanging out in Philly one day, and we were just like, I miss those days when like a new record would come out. You'd go to Best Buy, buy the CD, come home and just listen to it.
Yeah.
We realized, well, it's a Tuesday. That's when new CDs come out. Let's see what's coming out. The new Green Day album had just come out. Like, all right, let's go get it and bring it home and listen to it. And we did exactly that. And it turned out to be like one of their worst albums. Like,
oh, okay.
Like
so
20
just disappointment.
Exactly. It's like we tried to jump feet first into nostalgia, and we got a legendarily bad Green Day album.
I think that's how I felt with Modern Warfare 3, if you mentioned, because I think that was one of the worst Call of Duties. So it's the same thing, because we were so hyped out with Modern Warfare 2, and this was like, we're like, yeah, keep the Call of Duty train going, and I think that's where it started to go downhill.
See, we're going to talk about controversial games later, and when you mentioned Modern Warfare, I remembered like, oh shit, was No Russian on the PlayStation 2, and it wasn't. It was a PlayStation 3 game, but yeah, that was a famously...
Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1. That was, I think, the last PS2 game, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, so anyway, back into the history here. So PS2 is the best-selling console of all time. 155 million consoles sold. which is all the more impressive when you find out that number 2 and 3 are both handhelds, Nintendo DS and Game Boy/Game Boy Color, with 154 and 118 million units sold respectively. The original, again, just, I love little shit I find out doing research for this. The original PlayStation 1 was the first console to sell over 100 million units, toppling previous giants Nintendo and Sega on like their very first console attempt.
Yeah, PlayStation just came out the gate swinging.
Oh yeah,
I wonder. So I mean interrupt, but those numbers, does that count like thrift stores? Like if I go, because there's a thrift store like down the road, or like like if you buy like a secondhand PS2, do they keep track of that, or is this like fresh out the box?
I think this has to be fresh out the box. Okay. Like I don't know how you would even keep track of something at that point.
Because I imagine they're still selling. Like I want a PS2 like now. Like I can't justify, buying one for no reason.
Yeah, I don't think that number. I don't think it would be 155 million and one getting tallied up there. Maybe I'm sure they have ways of figuring that out.
There's probably some way you can estimate it.
Oh yeah. So we had some controversial advertising, as PlayStation always has with. Yeah, I don't know if you might be too young to remember, but I remember the PlayStation 1 had like particularly like egregious, kind of upsetting advertising with like weird alien faced like Japanese girls and shit like that. Oh. So like right here, PlayStation 1 more powerful than God. That's
what this Edge magazine. That's great.
Don't cut yourself on that edge. Although that's pretty, I don't know, that's pretty gnarly. Also, a lot of hubris looking back. Like, 32 bits beat that, Yahweh.
Yeah, beat that, God. Yeah.
Even God himself could not render polygons at this faster rate.
That's just funny. So that's a Sony run ad, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Or that's a quote, and then Sony was like, we're going to put that in our magazine or wherever. So Edge magazine said that, and Sony was like, we like that. Yeah,
and they like took out ads in other magazines with that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So again, you get like weird, upsetting things like this. We're looking at, I'm going to put the clip of this online. So if you're just listening, go fuck yourself. We're looking at a man with his head split in two, and there's a whole kind of Hieronymus Bosch factory hanging out inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are going to be the David Lynch ones. Again, okay. Even shit like this, like, a sexy lady taking her skin off and having a buff dude's musculature underneath.
Now I'm horny. So this is
horny and confused. Actually, horny and confused is PlayStation 2's like total demographic. If we're being honest.
Actually, we talked about my podcast coming up. That's actually the name of it, Horny and Confused.
Wow, you're gonna get him in. A weird pinhead, like Rubik's Cube skull. Again, has nothing to do with PlayStation 2, but like genuinely cool, upsetting kind of art.
I want to say the art is actually really good. Like whoever did this is like talented. Not like maybe subjectively not like good, but like, like they put a lot of work into this.
Mm-hmm. All right, another advertisement that I'm sorry can only be described as shiny black lady.
Yeah.
Got the Jada Pinkett bald dome there, so ahead of their time.
Too soon.
Oh, she might have alopecia or what if she has cancer or what if she had a really bad day?
Yeah, these ads, they're like, they don't even like talk about like the games. I guess I don't know if it was like to get attention. Like
it was all awareness. I feel like particularly this era, they were always trying to push like futurism. I remember.
Oh yeah.
Because Dreamcast dropped we'll talk about how fucking Dreamcast got fucked up, but Dreamcast dropped not long before this, and even that had a lot of the same visual style. Okay, so we have
a lot of people taking their clothes off.
Yeah, a lot of people taking their clothes off with upsetting surprises underneath.
Yeah, maybe that's like the PS2 is like those are thing. It's like you're gonna play a game, but you're gonna get something you didn't think you were gonna get. Like I don't know. Maybe it's
Well, I was going to say this particular one shows a woman taking off her shirt. However, she has no flesh underneath. She's the invisible woman, which I am going to play Freud here. And I'm going to interpret that this is trying to tell young teenagers buying PlayStation 2, you don't want pussy. Pussy's not even real.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. They're like, it doesn't exist. Once you play this game, you're going to be like, oh yeah, what's that?
I remember something. I used to have memories and fantasies about this, but no longer.
That's me with Elden Ring. I played that and I'm like, oh right, I'm engaged.
This
Oh
is a
my
dude.
God, this.
This
Oh my,
dude's
you said
sniffing
it.
panties.
Yeah. Why? This is so. This is like a valid source, right? This
Mhm.
isn't somebody like be like
No.
slapping the PS2 logo on.
Oh, wait a sec. You know what's actually kind of cool that I'm putting this together now? There are 4 pieces of undergarments on this bed. The guy is sniffing the panties. He is actually sniffing a triangle, and there is a square, an X, and an O,
Oh my God, I just noticed that. So
which
it's
means
like this.
which means this one's actually the most related to actual PlayStation 2 of all of these so far.
That's hilarious that they're like, okay, so we need to get across the point that of the buttons on this game, or like what's on the controller. So we're gonna have a guy sniffing panties. I want to be a fly on the wall in that board meeting where they were pitching this.
Yeah, as Yunioshi Akira is just putting his fucking garbage out there, just trying to work his fetishes into the. Okay, so that's all for the print stuff. We have 3 very quick David Lynch PlayStation 2 commercials. And again, if you're not watching the clip of this, well, then you're kind of shit out of luck.
You're missing out.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I always have a problem with the fucking audio on these. All right. Well,
I
whatever.
don't think we
Maybe
need the audio, right? Do we?
maybe. I'd be curious what it says, but
Oh, this is like a Twilight type, or not? Like Twilight Zone looks like.
yeah. So we're seeing black and white. There's a man giving a thumbs up down down a hallway. The hallway seems to be moving on him. Yeah, I think this is a thing PlayStation, YouTube does now, so that people can't like stream their videos.
Are you sure this isn't a trailer for the Lighthouse?
It looks a lot like it. Oh, okay. Arm just flew out of his mouth. God, David Lynch is so fucking cool. Even his dumb shit.
Oh my God, this is like a fever dream.
Yes. Yes, it is. So yeah, there's like a dude wrapped in bandages and a duck wearing a suit, and they're sitting on a couch in fucking purgatory, PlayStation 2.
I like how they did the question mark at the with the P there. People were like, "What the fuck?" Like,
oh yeah, that's what
he
did. Yeah, I saw that. All right, so another thing, we have Bambi. I think I've actually seen this one before.
Is he gonna get shot? Get hit by a car? Some bad's gonna happen.
Maybe. All right, Bambi. Somebody. Oh, all right. This car, is that Randy Quaid? Randy Quaid's about to hit Bambi again. PlayStation 2.
Great advertisement. Oh wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Okay, they stole that from a music video called Uncle, UNCLE, where pretty much a car crashes into a guy and the guy basically acts like a retaining wall and the car crashes around it.
So the deer,
cool.
so people who didn't watch, so that was the guy crashing the deer and the deer stopped the car.
Yes, like the car basically folded onto the deer.
That's like they're highlighting. They're going to talk about like all the games. You ever play a video game, like one of the racing games where you crash into like a fence or like a street pole and it should just obliterate, but then it's just like boom and just stops you. That's what that feels like. It's like they're like foreshadowing.
Yeah, like the out of bounds shit in video games where like a small bush will suddenly impede all progress.
Right, it will total your car.
Yeah. All right, I don't know what's again. This sucks. We don't have audio, but this video was starting with what looks like an Eastern European refugee woman who has very bad problems happening with one of her eye sockets. Okay, you know what? They're talking. We're just gonna skip this fucking YouTube.
She's saying buy PS2.
Yes, buy.
I can just narrate it. She's yelling. There's nobody there. She's in a game. This is probably a GameStop after close.
Okay, so this is that hot Inuit simulation game that was so big in 2005.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. It's actually more interesting reading this without the audio.
Yeah.
And just seeing trying to imagine what she's saying.
She is
there's going to be a PS2 logo any second. And oh my God. What if they just ran that silent?
Yeah.
That's the ad.
I mean, hey, it got us talking. So got to give it to him. She was also wearing Big J Okerson fingerless gloves, which looked pretty good on her. He's saying, buy PlayStation 2. You ever fuck a black guy? All right. So the hugest, and this goes back to what I mentioned, the huge selling point about PlayStation 2, not only backwards compatibility, which I think is the first time we had this. People were waiting for this with disc games because as opposed to the consoles leading up to this, where everything was not console, cartridge based. They all had their own particular design. So obviously, a Super Nintendo game was not going to fit into your old Nintendo. But now that all we're working off is discs, there was no reason for PlayStation 2 to not have the same. So unlike every console you've ever bought where like, oh man, now all my old games are obsolete, you can fucking throw that PS1 on the fire because you got the PS2 and it'll play all your old fucking games.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of set the bar for when the PS3 came out, because people were mad that a lot of those weren't backwards compatible.
Yeah, and that does seem kind of dumb and reverse. Well, the difference we had that changed in between those consoles is that now we had the era of like downloading games, which is a whole other profit area. I mean, I think so many. I should have looked it up beforehand, but I think like a lot of the money the Nintendo Switch makes is from like the old Nintendo library going back to the NES.
That's true. Yeah, but I think. Yeah, but I think also when the PS3 came out, like we weren't exactly in the digital era like yet. I think it was starting, because I remember my disc reader broke on my PS3. Like after I had it for a couple of years, and the disc reader broke, but I could still play games I had downloaded. And I remember I had a very limited collection because there were honestly like maybe only a couple dozen games that you could download on the PS3 market. I think one of them was like Burnout Paradise. And then there was like a couple like indie games, but you couldn't download like the new Call of Duty. You had to get a disc for that. And there was like, they didn't have any PS2 games on there yet. They did. It's weird though, because they did have like PS1 games. Like I remember I could play the original Crash Bandicoot series.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when they were starting to tiptoe into that market. But backwards compatibility, I think you're absolutely right. It definitely was a huge selling point.
Yeah,
for the PS2.
100%. So a little more of the history. It was announced on March 1st, 1999. The launch price was $299. 2 years later, they dropped it by $100 to $199, which is still huge. Because I mean, consoles. I looked it up. The PS5 dropped for $499, which I mean, even considering the inflation in like the last 18 or so years, like that is a big jump.
It is.
First day of release, $250 million worth of consoles, games, and peripherals sold. So like right out the gate, this thing was fucking huge.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the ads. They're like, they got people talking, I'm sure.
They knew how well it was going to sell, just in like, we are wasting our money on advertising. That's how confident we are in this system.
Do you know what games launched with the PS2? Because that's something I'd be curious.
So we can jump down here. I can honestly say I did not play a single one of these games. It's a pretty weak. Pardon me. Okay, so the launch games: Armored Core 2, DOA 2 Hardcore, Dynasty Warriors 2, ESPN International Track and Field, ESPN X Games Snowboarding, Eternal Ring, Evergrace, Fantavision, Gun Griffin Blaze, Kessen. I don't know what that is. Madden 2001, Midnight Club, MotoGP, NHL 2001, Orphan, Cue Ball Billiards Master. I love how in every launch title, there's always that one, like, we put a digital parlor game in here. Like PS3 launch, and it's just like darts.
Yeah.
Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2. I played the first one of that. I don't remember that one.
I had that on 64. Yeah.
Ridge Racer 5, Silent Scope, Smuggler's Run, SSX, Street Fighter EX3, Summoner, Swing Away, Tekken Tag Tournament, Time Splitters, Unreal Tournament, Wild Racing, and X Squad.
So wow.
Yeah, do you have memories? That's a lot of games to start with. At the same time, there's not really like a big franchise name in there, which again, I might be old. I just remember the older games, like, you know, it dropping with like a Crash Bandicoot or well, actually, was Crash Bandicoot available on launch for PS1?
PS1? I have no idea, because I got PS1 is like, I'm in diapers. So
right.
But
I remember I think I remember at the least, I think Tomb Raider was a launch for PS1.
Yeah, I think Crash Bandicoot was later. But the Midnight Club, that's the one that sticks out to me. I I played Midnight Club. I didn't play much of the first one. I played Midnight Club 3 and Midnight Club 2. I had the first one, but I didn't like it. And
Mm.
I think it makes sense it was a launch title because it seems like they didn't know where they wanted to go with like with the racing in it. But Midnight Club 3 has some of the best car customization, I think, honestly, like possibly I haven't played a lot of racing games, but to date. And just like some of the like you can have like hydraulics to your car and have like spinning rims. I just remember playing that game and being so like having so much fun with just the car like customization in it.
Hmm. That's the thing. When I was going over, because there's like one or two racing games in the top 10, and
Mm-hmm.
I've never been big on them. So that actually
Yeah.
kind of surprised me. Although it makes sense. I feel like back when arcades were really a thing, their racing games were cool just because they tended to be a bit more immersive just because they'd give you
Yeah.
like an actual gas pedal, shit like that.
Yeah. I remember my uncle, he had like the steering wheel and like the gas pedal, and that was like a big deal. That was like super, I mean, insanely expensive to like at
Mhm.
a time to have that hooked up to in your living room, you know?
Oh yeah. Like I remember when I first started working, I had this fantasy of I was going to save up and I was going to buy a House of the Dead 2 arcade game from
Okay.
my basement. Like yeah, that sounds bulky as shit for a game. Like I don't know. I think I'd still be playing that game today. I still play it whenever I see it in an arcade. I love that fucking thing.
Yeah. Those are, that's a dream, I think, to have one of those in your man cave, you know?
Mm-hmm. So all right, we can talk about this for a second. I didn't plan on this, but if we think
Okay.
most successful video game peripherals of all time, I mean, I think I got three off the top of my head, and I would say Light Gun, Dance Dance Revolution Pad, and then you gotta go the Guitar Hero franchise.
Oh yeah. So you're talking about like peripherals, like different controllers and stuff. Like
Yeah, like a different outside of the norm, outside of your standard controller for like the data input of the game.
yeah, I say Guitar Hero is the first one that comes to mind. And then the other ones you mentioned, I haven't heard of. What were they?
The Dance Dance Revolution Pad.
Oh, Dance Dance. Oh yeah, Dance Dance Revolution. It was the
So
and then you said
I said DDR. For us people in the know.
and then what was the other one?
Like a light gun,
Oh,
like the
like
actual, yeah, just the gun to shoot at the screen. Which, come to
yeah.
think of it, not a lot of games have employed. It's hilarious that like initially came with the NES and was part of their launch with Duck Hunt, but or at least later models shipped with that, and yet it's something that didn't really carry on much outside of the arcade.
I think it's one of those things. It's like at the arcade, it's fun. It's like you go there. It's like there's more like the guns like feel like wow, like this is cool. And the
Mm-hmm.
other one's like maybe it's like one of those things where it's like one of those things you play with and then you just put down after a while and then like I don't want to use that every day. Like
Yeah.
I like because I mean that's how I felt with every time a new VR headset comes out, I buy it and I'm like wow, and then like it sits somewhere in my room for like forever until I get COVID and I'm like all right, I guess I'll fucking play this again. Like
Yeah.
but yeah, I could think Guitar Hero is like probably one of the most popular out of those. I never played Dance Dance because I was a fat kid, so it's like I was like I'm not going to exercise and play video games.
So remind me, what year were you born?
94.
94. Okay. So I'm 86. I got 8
Okay.
years on you. My particular era, the big thing with Dance Dance Revolution is that was the place you were, as a husky boy myself, which I
Mhm.
was. That was where you were going to see the cute nerdy girls like
Oh.
jumping around, jiggling around. It's
Mhm.
also where you were going to see some of the more outgoing nerds, also fat guys, jumping around, jiggling around. But
Right.
it was very good. It was the rock band of its day. It was what you were going to do, at the sleepover before.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit, like maybe some pot has crept in, but you're not
Yeah.
really drinking, getting fucked up yet.
But now it's like, yeah, weed is like, oh, it's like, whoa, they got weed. It's like, like I guess a bit edgier
Yeah, and
back then.
The DDR pad sits there and gathers dust while everyone just gets high.
People are like, this is way cooler.
Yes, I can.
Yeah. How many DDR pads have watched people get stoned in their basement? Probably way too many.
Oh yeah, well that's God, I can guarantee there's plenty of people who just love DDR and then just like slowly started like graduating high school, slowly put on weight and then wore
Yeah.
out the fucking sensor pads. All right. Single most important aspect of the PlayStation to me. PlayStation was the first, and for a long time, the only DVD player most people had. I think before this, I had like an uncle who had a DVD player, and it was like absurdly expensive. It was like a piece of stereo equipment, basically. He
Yeah.
bought it for like $500-600, and it was crazy. And I remember the first movie I ever watched on DVD, Blade, and it was
Okay.
awesome.
I remember having a DVD player, and I don't remember if it came with the PS2. No, I know I had a PS2. What I don't remember is I don't remember if I think I had a DVD player before I had a PS2, if I'm being honest.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
it's maybe, or I'm remembering it wrong. I am trying to remember. I remember having a PS1 and loving that. I think the order of consoles I had a PS1, I had a Nintendo 64, and then I had a PS2. I want to say that was the order I had. And yeah, and then I think somewhere around there I had a DVD player. Maybe it was after the PS2, because maybe my parents got it for me and they didn't know that it had a DVD player in it.
So that's possible.
Yeah, but I remember because I remember at one point I think my PS2 broke or something, and I was so bored. I wanted to play games, but I didn't have anything. I think I was, do you remember like on the DVD bonus menus when some of them would have games? Like Finding Nemo had like a trivia game, and like Max Keeble's Big Move. I don't know why that's coming to my mind, but they used to have in the bonus menus of the DVDs. They used to have like you could play these games, and I remember one of my consoles broke, and I had nothing to play, and we had a sleepover with my friend. We just played that all night. We played we mastered Matt Keeble's like puzzle game.
Wow. So looking back, I think I was 10 or 11 years old when this came back. This is definitely a low point in all of gaming. The new Aerosmith album, 9 Lives, had a CD-ROM game you could play along with of it. And it was pretty much like it was actually like a proto Guitar Hero, only you had to like press the space bar in rhythm to the song or whatever. But it was so much fucking fun. I loved it. But looking back, yeah, fucking Aerosmith video game. Not actually, Aerosmith had an arcade game in the 90s called Revolution X that was pretty fucking fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So it came with a DVD player, which was a huge thing. Not only that, due to its pricing was like competitive with standalone DVD players. So basically PS2 also got a lot of purchases from people who were non-gamers for the most part. I think this definitely contributed to it. And for so long, I think up until 2015, like my primary DVD player it wasn't until Blu-ray that I had like started looking into other DVD players.
Yeah.
And of course, now it feels like all DVD players are obsolete.
Yeah, because going back to the digital time, it's like now everything like I was working on a joke where it's like and it's true, like I'll be in my basement and we'll be scrolling through movies. Like what do we want to watch? And we're like, oh, we haven't watched this in a while. It's like, oh, it's like $4. It's like, wait, don't we have that on DVD somewhere? And I have like a pile of DVDs somewhere in my house. I'm just like, I could dig through those, or I could spend $4 and watch this right now. And that's literally like what I did. Like, I forget what movie it was. It was some movie. Oh, you know what? It might have been like Kangaroo Jack or something. Because have you seen Kangaroo Jack?
Yes.
Yeah. So I remember I was like, me and my man, it must have been, I don't know what it was. It must have been when I had like COVID or something. I had nothing to do. And I was just like my whole family had it. So we're in the basement. We're just watching shit. I'm like, I think I was the only one who had seen Kangaroo Jack. And I was like, oh no, we're all watching Kangaroo Jack. Like this is going to happen. And then like, I was like, my mom's like, didn't I get you the DVD for that in fucking like 2004? Cause that's all the shit she remembers. And I'm like, yeah, probably. But I just bought it. It's $4. It's okay. We'll survive,
Oh god, dude. Having moved out of my mom's house and like some things remain behind, parents are so baffled at the complete loss of value of CDs and DVDs. Like I remember my mom a few times like, you got to come here and clean all this out. You probably have a couple $1,000s worth of DVDs here. Like, yeah, in 2003 money, absolutely. I have 30 cents now. To this day, I have like Blu-rays and DVDs that I hold on to if it's like The Godfather or
Right.
like, a very specific horror, but like shit I'm always going to want access to,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. The thing is, anytime I like, so for me, that's like, yeah, like Shawshank Redemption, like movies
Mhm.
like that. It's always like, and now we're just going on a totally different topic, but of like great movies. But
That's fine.
yeah, Netflix and yeah, so like every time a movie comes, like Netflix has a pretty good rotation of movies I love. And
Mhm.
usually like Shawshank will come out and I'll just watch that like every week. Like I'll fall asleep to it or like eat my breakfast to it, and then it'll drop and I'll be like, oh, it's, whatever. And I forget about it for a while and then it comes back. Same thing with like Goodfellas and all that.
Same. Goodfellas is one I have on Blu-ray for
Oh
exactly
yeah.
that reason.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love
I
those
remember
movies.
when I first started working from home during the pandemic, I just became like, okay, I'm going to watch like all the classic movies I've never seen.
Yeah.
So it was like fucking The Natural, Last Picture Show, fucking what is it? The African Queen. Long story short, the main thing I got out of watching those movies is I suddenly got every Simpsons reference ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the entire episode of Homer at the Bat, like almost all of it is taken from The Natural, which was really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, Simpsons. That's another way to go. I guess when you do watch a lot of like movies that you never saw as a kid, you get those references.
Mhm. So, an afterthought of the PS2 and its success is it basically killed the Dreamcast, the Sega Dreamcast, which I bought on opening day. I loved the Dreamcast,
Did you?
but
I never played it. I couldn't name one game. I couldn't tell you what the controller looks like to save my life.
it looks weird. It looks a little bit like the Star Trek symbol, only
Okay.
fleshed out a little bit. I bought it because I was a big survival horror guy. I loved Resident Evil. I loved Silent Hill. And it was already announced that the new Resident Evil game was going to be a Dreamcast exclusive. That would be Code Veronica,
Okay.
which, oh God, talking about video game memories. I remember I was 13 years old. Code Veronica just came out and I went and bought it. And I remember my friends being like, you got to come hang out at the park with us. I'm like, nah, fuck y'all. Chris and
Yeah.
Claire Redfield need me right now. And playing it for like 5 hours. And then my friends in school the next day being like, dude, we were at the park and Ashley Cardoza's titties popped out. You should have been there. Like, oh,
You're like,
okay.
nah, dude, I was having fun.
Like, I was having fun, but on second, damn, that was probably my only chance. So,
Dude, that's like there's a whole nother timeline where you saw her titties.
that's right. And I was a different man, and I decided this is what I need to be spending my time on. So yeah, despite starting off strong, the PS2 was just such a success that Dreamcast sales dipped dramatically, and more developers pivoted to PS2 games instead. The one other thing I have on PlayStation 2 is it technically had like online functionality, though I don't think I ever met a single person who like had theirs set up.
Yeah, no, I think I had one friend and he was playing like one of the Splinter Cell games, and that was it. I don't think online gaming became popular, at least like all with consoles, like until like the Xbox 360, PS3 era, because that's when Call of Duty like
Right.
started being like real, like Modern Warfare, the first Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, because it was the fourth whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when like I remember that's when I started failing the 8th grade.
Yeah, it did really open up gaming overall. Like that's what, as somebody who liked storytelling in video games, again, particularly with Silent Hill, Resident Evil, it kind of blew my mind a few years later when it became all like, I asked my brother, like, have you played the single player version yet of Left 4 Dead? And him just looking at me like, why the fuck would I do that?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. There's I think, yeah, because it was like you had to do a lot of work to play anything online on like PS2 or the original Xbox.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. So we have these weird early internet era consoles where like Dreamcast and I think maybe even the first PlayStation might have had a peripheral for it, where like they offered stuff like you can connect it to the internet, but like nobody did. It had no functionality yet.
Yeah.
But they were putting the hardware there. They were getting ready for it.
Yeah.
So
kind of treading the water, I guess.
yeah. So PS2 released a slimmer model in 2004, which no doubt gave all the other consoles eating disorders. Yeah, they were pretty chunky. Like a GameCube might be one of the ugliest console designs I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, well, I disagree. I never owned a
Oh,
GameCube,
okay.
and I would always look at it at my friend's house and be like, "Oh, that's cute. Like it fits on the shelf. It's like little this like, it's
Yeah.
like
Didn't it also have like didn't it also have like a handle on the back? Like
yeah,
again,
but I think
planning for stuff that's never ever going to happen. Like you can just pack up your GameCube and just walk down the street with it.
well, dude, I think the GameCube's got to be like one of the most sleepover consoles. I think oh, like so and so is bringing their GameCube. Like that's to me, like anytime I'm at like some like weird like sleepover like house party like BYOB thing, somebody's got a GameCube. Like PS2 is like I like maybe, but like I think GameCube's got like all like the Mario games, and people want to play like
Nintendo was always good for the party games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I think the only thing that broke that then was like the Rock Band and Guitar Hero, which, were pretty much widespread amongst all the consoles, which it actually made me sad when I looked it up for this. They were talking about like the popularity of rhythm games like this and that, which turned out to be a fad. Like, oh yeah, it did. At the time, people were like, this is going to revolutionize how we make video games. And then just like, yeah, nah, we're done. We got Obama in office. We don't need these anymore.
It's like every video game has that genre that hits hard and then fades away a little bit. Like battle royale games, like when PUBG came out and then Fortnite, that was like, oh, everybody wanted to make a battle royale. Everybody scrambled, and now
you have to describe to me what a battle royale game is. I don't think I know what it is.
Oh, so it's like are you familiar with Fortnite and like and Player Unknown Battleground?
I'm familiar with Fortnite. I think mainly the flossing dance. That's all I really know.
Okay, so battle royale, it's basically like 100 people drop into a map, and one person makes it out, and they're the winner. So it's like those are like those games were super pop. I mean, they still are. Like people still play Fortnite, but PUBG was I think the first big battle royale game that came out. And it stood for Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. And it was just like you drop out of an airplane, there's 100 people or however many on the map, and one person makes it out. And then if you and that was like all anybody talked about when I worked at Best Buy. It's like, yeah, I got my first, they called it chicken dinners at the time. Like, yeah, I got my first chicken dinner. Like I won, and then like everybody was making fun of me because I hadn't gotten a chicken dinner yet. So I'm just at home, just like sweating, like trying to win this fucking game. Cause I'm like, I could just have lied and been like, yeah, no, I got a chicken dinner. But I'm like, no, fuck these guys. So I'm like, dude, the game was insane. Cause like you could go, I think the first win I ever got, so with the battle royale, you could not kill any of the 99 players the entire game and then just kill the last guy who's killed everybody else and you win. So I would sit in like the tall grass in like a ghillie suit and a sniper and just not move the entire game and just watch the guy like walking around looking for me. And then when he eventually like stops to like check his inventory, just snipe him in the face. And I'm like, I win. Like,
oh, that's such a shitheel method, but it works.
Yeah. It's not about how you win. It's about winning.
That's right. So one last little note here before we get into the specific games. So when they made the slimmer models, they stopped producing the older, bulkier models to let supply dry up. This hilariously backfired and led to disaster in the UK when a shipment of new slim PS2s coming in from China on a boat was late after a Russian oil tanker got caught in the Suez Canal. As a result, during 1 week that November, PS2 sales dropped 95% in the UK.
Oh my God, wow.
Just little, I love
fucking
these
Russians,
little,
dude.
They fuck up everything. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get into the top 10 most high-selling games. Can you give me five? Give me five that you would predict would be in the top 10, and we're gonna see how that plays out.
So can I give you? I don't know if I can give you five. I can give you ones that I think would be in the top selling. Okay. And then I want to give you ones that I think actually are. Okay. Because the way you phrased it to me earlier, you made it sound like, oh, I had no idea. So now I'm rethinking,
I'm just saying, personally, I have played 2 games on this top 10.
Okay, so top 10. So what is it? Top 10 exactly? Top 10 most sold PS2 games ever?
Most sold. We're not talking quality or criteria. We're talking most
Most
sold.
sold. I want to say, oh man, I want to say there's a FIFA game in there somewhere. That's my guess. I want to say somewhere in there's a FIFA game. I don't know which one. I want to say there's a Madden in there somewhere. I want to say FIFA, Madden. And then I want to say Grand Theft Auto has to be one of them. If it's not San Andreas, it's Vice City, or it's 3. I literally just named all three of the PS2 Grand Theft Auto games. It's one of the 3. Those are the 3. So FIFA, Madden, that I want to say Kingdom Hearts, one of the Kingdom Hearts games. And then another one I want to say is, I want to say Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Those are my 5. I want to guess.
Okay, so to start off, you know what? I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just actually go down, and we'll talk about them as they go.
Okay.
So at number 10, with 4.78 million units sold, Kingdom Hearts. You got that one right there. Okay. I can't tell you anything about this fucking game other than like Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse are in it for some reason. I don't understand any of it.
The story, it like, if you want to understand the story of that game, you have to watch like 4 hours of YouTube videos. It's so insane. But the gameplay is like, I got into the Kingdom Hearts series really late. I played Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2 when it was remastered on PS3 and PS4. And then I tried playing 3 and I couldn't get into it.
Is it an RPG?
Yeah, I don't even know how you would describe it. I guess it's an RPG. It's a JRPG, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also just curious, like how the fuck like Disney characters even got involved in it, but makes sense.
It's good.
All right. Number 9 with 6 million sold, Tekken 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, again. Tekken. Yeah, I was never huge on fighting games. I like Soul Calibur and Mortal Kombat, and that was really about it.
Yeah.
Next one, not really a big surprise. You might kick yourself for not thinking of this one. Number 8 with 6 million sold, Final Fantasy 12.
Ooh, I forgot about Final Fantasy.
Same. Yeah. I was not aware, but apparently PlayStation 2 has been referred to as like the golden age of like Final Fantasy games.
Yeah. Because I think what was it? The first Final Fantasy came out in PS1. And I think, if I'm not mistaken,
you're very mistaken. The first Final Fantasy came out on NES.
Did it?
Oh yeah, the 8-bit era. I know this because I have only gotten into Final Fantasy recently, and I have played through Final Fantasy, 1 through 6, but that's technical right there because like the game that was released in the States is Final Fantasy 3 is actually Final Fantasy 6. It's a whole fucking thing. But yeah, the first 3 or 4, I think, are all NES, and then it has 2 or 3 that are on Super Nintendo. And Final Fantasy 7, I believe, was the first one on PlayStation.
Because they called it Final Fantasy because it wasn't the studio going out. Like, this is what I heard. The studio was going to go out of business, and this was like their last game they were going to make, so they called it Final Fantasy. And then
so the way they just released Scream 6, but they just called it Scream.
Yeah.
That very much might be possible.
Okay.
Number 7 with 7 million units sold, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty.
Okay.
Never played it. You got this one right. 8 million sold, GTA 3.
All right. I knew it was one of the Grand Theft Autos.
I'm going to tell you right now, all 3 of them are on here.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have guessed all 3, but
yeah. Those were huge, which is all the more crazy considering that, like, again, I can tell you as an older guy, GTA 1, GTA 2, not a big thing. Nobody gave a shit. But GTA 3 is the first time they really opened up the hardware and made it like, this full explorable world, as opposed to GTA 1 and 2, which are just like top down. Yeah. All right. With 8 million sold at number 5, Final Fantasy 10. At 4, with 9.61 million, the 80s one, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. 3 and 2 is where I get confused. But again, I said I don't play these games. With 11.676 million and 14.89 million sold, respectively, Gran Turismo 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the more popular racing games.
Yeah. Which, again, I had no idea were so popular. And then number one, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, 17.33 million.
Oh, dude, yeah, everybody had anybody who had a PS2 had San Andreas if their mom allowed them to have it. Like,
Oh, well, interesting segue into our next topic, controversies.
oh,
One of them, by the way, I'm almost done. I have like one more section after this.
no, it's fine.
So yeah, the infamous hot coffee controversy.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah, now we're digging deep.
Well, why don't you enlighten our listeners?
So from what I understand, and I'm sure you have an actual source popped up with like the information, but from what I understand, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, so there was it was out on PS2 and then it was also out on PC and Xbox. And at some point, I think this is what I remember. I remember there was a hot coffee on PC. There was like a hot coffee DLC or like update or like mod. There was in the original GTA San Andreas, there was hot coffee and you could like have sex with like one of your girlfriends and like you could take them on a date and then it cuts to like you like doing like sexual positions with her or whatever.
Mhm.
And it was called like hot coffee. And I think this originally came out on, or it was taken out of the game. And if you bought the game on PC, you could find like in the code where it was, and like you could bring it back. And then they had to give it like an adults only rating or something like that. I don't know. I might be forgetting, but
So
am I on point there?
Yes. So we're watching the clip right now, and it's pretty hilarious. I mean,
Yeah.
Again, just horrible polygons.
Polygon.
Like
CJ
this
has
guy,
his clothes on.
I was gonna say this guy's in good shape. You can't take your shirt off for love making. With God, look at those weird.
He's doing it with jeans on too. Oh my God.
Yeah, man, you're gonna chafe it at the base there. But yeah, so pretty much hot coffee was this is so, which is funny that this was even a controversy because even like 8 years later or something, isn't there like a God of War like side mission where like press X to eat pussy or whatever, and it all happens off screen, but it's like basically this.
Yeah, you're fucking them, and it's like a mini game. I think every God of War has it, except for maybe the one where there's a kid, because that'd be weird.
I mean, hey, I will say this for the, oh my God, they actually have a fucking jizzing and falling asleep animation. That is the most realistic video game I've ever seen. So yeah, a lot of people freaked out about that. A lot of, politicians trying to rile people up when obviously it was something that was really inaccessible unless your kid was the nerdiest of fucking nerds.
Yeah, because was I right when I said that it's like something they took out, but you could access the code and bring it back?
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know if they ever confirmed it, but like this will often happen where like video game companies, like a developer will get bored and like put in some weird shit on the side.
Yeah.
Like just as a gag for everyone else.
And then that was probably one of them.
Yeah, and then never take it out. So, but that one, was buried in the code. GTA was also controversial just for violence in general. Just
it didn't help. It wasn't like, no, this game's great. This game is like everything else is fine. And then there's this weird thing where you can have sex with people. It was it was already like you're already running people over. And
yeah, again, this would be a little different if they found this mod in like Crash Bandicoot or Kingdom Hearts. They're like, oh yeah, they have this side mission where you need to, where Minnie Mouse sucks your dick, and then you gotta like, and Donald Duck watches through the window. But so yeah, other than that, I find it funny when a lot of like I don't remember this actually happening, but having learned from history, like the PMRC, when they wanted to like put the stickers on albums with bad lyrics, and they were like trying to show examples like these are the albums our children's are buying, and then they're reading lyrics from like the most obscure fucking punk band that like nobody ever like, I'm gonna pee on your face and smell my butthole, acting like this is on MTV 4 times an hour. But one of the
on SoundCloud today.
Exactly, yeah. But one of the controversial games was called Bmx Xxx, which was literally, again, just terrible polygon titties riding bicycles.
There was a Playboy game on the PS2, and it had an AO rating, adults only.
Right. There were a few of those. There was that. There was Leisure Suit Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but these were games that ultimately weren't really popular.
Yeah.
The game Bully was a little bit of a I believe the plot of Bully is like it was kind of like a Rockstar game, only instead of, the
I played the shit
warrior.
out of it.
Yeah.
I played the shit out of Bully. I love that game.
Tell me the main
I
plot
have
of
it
it.
on my PC. I have it on my PC. So you're like this you're this troubled youth who gets dropped off at like this private school. Like you're
Mhm.
like it's like this. So you're not really like a bully yourself. You're like this just like kid who's like pissed off because his parents are like dropping him off at like this. It's called Bulworth Academy. It's
Mhm.
supposed to like straighten you out because like you're like and so you get there and you're like, oh man, like I don't want to go to class, and you're like running around and it's basically like Rockstar. It's an open world game. You start off, it's closed off. You're in the school, and then it opens up to like the entire like town and city.
Mhm.
And the Rockstar made it because they wanted a Grand Theft Auto game that like kids could play, and it's done perfectly because it's like instead of a gun, you get like what's it called, the
Slingshot.
slingshot. You get a slingshot.
Nice.
Instead of like grenades, you get firecrackers, like stuff like that. So
So
it's like you can.
it's like Bart Simpson violence.
Yeah, it's like the Simpsons. Like it's like
Mhm.
there's no like real violence. Maybe like I mean, so similar to how you can take people out on dates in Grand Theft Auto, you can do that in Bully,
Mhm.
except like the hot coffee is like a kiss on the cheek, and then they go inside.
Right.
And then
Well,
that's it.
I know one of the controversies was apparently you could make the character do gay stuff, like make out with other dudes.
So that was like an Easter egg that you had to like work hard to unlock. It wasn't even like
Okay, so that was
because
like that was like the Resident Evil 2, like click on the desk 50 times and you'll get a bad pixelated photo of Rebecca Chambers wearing a bra. Kind
yeah.
of
So
shit.
it was like so. There's one character in the game, and anybody who hasn't played Bully, I'm gonna spoil it because it doesn't matter. You should have played it by now.
Hmm.
And there's one character in the game who's like a jock, and he's always just like this like tough like asshole throughout the game, and then you find out that like if you romance him enough, the first I think 30 or 40 times he'll be like fuck off Dill, like screw
Uh-huh.
you Dillweeb or whatever, and then like after the fourth time he's like I don't know, I do kind of like you, and then you go further and further and you give him flowers and stuff, and then you can just like start making out with him. And
That
then
is
he's like,
great.
and then as he's like, and like so like the kiss, it's so over the top and it's funny. And like the animation and then like the voice actors, you could tell they're just overdoing it in the booth, just like,
Mhm.
like Rockstar was like, you're a teenager, you're making out, go.
Mhm.
And they're just like, and it's like, it was for me, I was like, I mean, I didn't fucking care. Like,
Mhm. So yeah, you mentioned it, by the way. There were some people who referred to Bully as like a Columbine simulator, like really, really running away with the title there.
not
But
even close.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that though. I do feel like PlayStation 2 is where we finally left the horrible voice acting era of PlayStation
Yeah.
of video games behind. Because again, big lover of Silent Hill, Resident Evil, voice acting was god awful.
Oh yeah. Have you seen there's some of the voice acting, especially in like games like BioShock Infinite,
Mhm.
games like that. If you watch like the actors in the booth, I remember this one girl, the girl who I forget her name. I feel so bad, but the woman who played Elizabeth in Bio. Have you ever played BioShock Infinite?
No.
Oh well, then I won't go too into detail, but like it's a very story heavy game and very emotional. And one of the women in the game, there's a scene where she needs to cry and be emotional, and the directors are just like berating her in the sound booth, like
Oh
they're
shit.
trying to get her to cry. But like, I mean, she's on board, she like consented to
Mhm.
it. But like they're like, you're a fucking terrible voice actor. We're never gonna get this done. Say your fucking lines. And then she's like, she actually starts crying, and then that's when she does the lines, and then like she crushes, and they're like, we're so sorry, thank you, that was amazing. She was like so it's like it's so interesting to see like not every obviously that's not every scenario, but like some of the lengths, like voice acting is so I took a voice acting course,
Mhm.
and there's just so much work goes into it that people don't understand.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Like I've seen some videos of like the cast of Futurama like being recording their stuff, and they're full on like full body acting like in
Oh
the
yeah, because
moment.
you have to the emotions are there when you like and
Right.
you on stage too, like when you do stand up, I'm sure you can tell there's a lot more emotion in the joke when you're like animated with it,
Oh
whereas
yeah.
opposed if you're just holding the mic.
Well, see, that's why I started. I feel so lame for doing this because it almost feels like a really cheap gimmick. But about 6 months ago, I started leaving the mic in the stand, and that
Mhm.
actually like opened up my movement a lot on stage in a way I
Yeah.
wasn't. Which, because you think about it, it's very unnatural for most people to see somebody emoting with like their hand in their face the whole
Yeah.
time. And obviously, I'm still like picking it up, carrying it around, but it does. I don't know. It opened things up in a way that I was really, really into.
That's cool. I tried doing that a couple times, but I have too many bits where like I hunch over or like I'll pivot different ways, and it's like I don't. The only time I ever really keep it in the mic stand is if I'm hosting because I don't want to have to be like,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. One last controversy. This was a game I've never heard of. The video game Shadow Man Second Coming
Oh,
launched a guerrilla marketing campaign that involved defacing actual people's tombstones with like the upcoming like Second Coming coming soon. Somebody thought it was a good idea.
oh
And looking
wow.
back now, the fact that it was a game nobody fucking remembers or has heard of didn't work.
It'd be different if it was like Resident Evil or something.
Yeah.
But wow, yeah, I've never heard of that game.
Yeah. All right. Last section here, just notable games. Personal favorites. I have to have Guitar Hero and Rock Band on there just for
Okay.
God, a lot of parties at that time. I had a buddy who every time I'd go to his house, we'd do a one-on-one competition for Dragon Forces Through the Fire and the Flames. See
Oh
who
yeah.
could yeah, which was fucked up because I would always lose. However, I was the one of us that could actually play guitar, which I've
Yeah.
heard it said before, and I can say if you can actually play an instrument, those games are so counterintuitive.
So when the Wii came out and Wii bowling was a thing, I
Mhm.
whooped my dad's ass in Wii bowling so hard. He made me turn off the game and he took me to a bowling alley so that he could whoop my ass. So that he could whoop my ass because he was like this isn't even real. He's like, I'm throwing the controller, it's not even going where I want it to go. There's no weight in the controller, so it's not like an actual bowling ball. I was like, Dad, you're just mad you suck at bowling. And he literally like shut the game off, took me to a bowling alley and whooped my ass so he could be like, this is bowling. And I'm like, oh, can I go home? I want to play my Wii.
Good. You will respect the third dimension in our household, you piece of shit.
Exactly.
Um, just because I mentioned them so many times, Resident Evil 4, which was such a huge game, reinvented the genre. Also Silent Hill 2 through 4, my
Okay.
favorites. Those games are the scariest anything. Like
Mhm.
better than any horror movie I've ever seen, like just traumatizing. And such great fucking stories. I don't know. I think they're part of the reason I'm such a dark comic,
Resident
which
Evil's fun. Yeah.
yeah, well, Resident Evil's fun, but like I said, Silent Hill was always more like creepy.
Spooky.
Like
Yeah. It's
in
like,
the very first Silent Hill, I remember there's one section you're in like this abandoned school, and all of a sudden these little like they look like black toddler ghosts like just start coming after you in this one room, and you freak out and you shoot at them, and it's like, oh no, they you can't shoot them and they can't hurt you.
yeah.
They're just there, living out
Spooky.
their tortured afterlife. You just deal with that.
Yeah.
Um, Devil May Cry, I never played. I know a lot of people loved
Mm-hmm.
as like the ultimate cool action game. Same thing with God of War. I loved the Rockstar game Warriors based on the movie.
Warriors.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember seeing gameplay on that on G4 when that
Mm.
was on TV, and I
I
remember
remember
like,
G4.
yeah, but I never played it.
It was a lot of fun. I'm surprised that
Okay.
it's had like no legacy to speak of. And the last PS2 game I can think of that again, everyone else I knew played it. I never really played it, but it was so weird. It definitely made an impression on me. Katamari Damacy.
Oh, that's one where you roll around in the ball.
Yeah, you roll around and just collect things, and like it has a very interesting soundtrack, and like God is just looking at you the whole time. Like if you pan the camera up, God is just like looking through the clouds at you.
Yeah, I remember playing the Katamari games. I think I had them on like PSP.
Mm.
And but yeah, that's that. It's weird. I thought that most of those were like mobile, like
I think
like
I
portable
think the
games.
original one was PS2, as far
Gotcha.
as I could tell. Any big ones you have that stick out that we haven't really covered?
Oh, so dude, we didn't even talk about the Tony Hawk games. That's
That's
like,
right. So here's a again, Tony Hawk. I know Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3 were all PS1. I think
right.
it was an I think PS3 actually launched on 1 and 2 at the same time, PS1 and 2. But obviously PS2 had like better everything for it. I actually played Tony Hawk 3 on PS1 recently, and it is so fucking laggy and slow.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think on PS2 I had Pro Skater 4, Tony Hawk's Underground, Tony Hawk's Underground 2, American Wasteland, and then it goes downhill from there. I think American Wasteland was like the last good Tony Hawk game.
Yeah. And the main thing with Tony Hawk, even more than the game, which was like fun, but I personally like it had all these different characters, but at the same time, I don't think it really mattered for the most part who you picked. It was unlike a lot, let's say like the racing games where you could really customize, other than like some not turning as quickly. Like I couldn't really get a big different feel.
Yeah,
playing with different characters.
Once Viva La Bam came out, everybody played Bam Margera.
That's right. Or you worked really hard to unlock Phil.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was a cheat code. I remember it. And Tony Hawk's Underground 2, it was April's Man. That was the name of the cheat code. It was April's Man, and he had I think his special move was chomp on this, and he'd pull out a pizza and he would like bite it in midair and then put it away. And that was a special move in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, or what I think in the earlier Tony Hawk games they brought it back and gave it to Phil because it was like funny. But Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, I have so much nostalgia for that, and that was the last one I think before they would let you get off your board. And then Underground came out and you could get off your board, and that was a huge. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, you can walk in this game!" Because it made traversing certain areas like so much easier, just being able to like walk up steps.
It also makes sense because at a certain point, like you have to have something like that, otherwise you're just making the same game over and over again.
Exactly, and it's like that reminds me of like getting off your board. Like it reminds me when I worked at GameStop, all the kids like walking up to me with like the racing games, and they're like, "Can you get out your car in this game?" And I'm like, "No, that's Grand Theft Auto," and you're not old enough to play that. But Tony Hawk Pro Skater, yeah, dude, I remember I was in, what was it? It was I want to say 4th grade, maybe 3rd or 4th grade or something like that. When Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 was like, I had it on PS2. And this was like when like cheat codes were like word of mouth. Like I didn't really have like, there was like Cheat Planet maybe, but like there really wasn't a whole lot. Like you couldn't YouTube, whatever. So I remember my buddy, we were stuck on this one part, and we just kind of dealt with it for a while. And then he came rushing out of the playground. He's like, "I've got this cheat code. It unlocks everything in the game." And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I'm like, "What? No way." And it was called Watch Me Explode, and that was the name of the cheat code, because they had the main AC/DC track was TNT.
Watch me explode.
Exactly. So you put that cheat code in, and it unlocks everything in the game. And I just remember like putting like 48 hours of one weekend of just being like, "Oh, this is like this. I have this character now. I can go like here now." Cause like, I remember the game was tough for me. So like being able to unlock all the levels and stuff and just play was like a big deal.
Yeah. Cheat codes are fun for that. Unfortunately, they could also make it a little like, okay, I'm done. I've done everything I possibly can with this game at this point. So working at GameStop, how did you often have to like shoot down kids for like not having
fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. Yeah, absolutely. The kids who would come up, and I hated it when they would do it to me when I was a kid. But then once I worked there, I understood the power dynamic of shooting down children when they're trying to. So I already know where you're going with this. I already know. So like, yeah. So the kid walks up to the counter, and he's with the parent. Like I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm glad you brought it up. So the kid would walk up to the counter with the parent, and they'd have like a copy of Grand Theft Auto, and we were always supposed to be like, "Are you okay? Like this game's rated M for this, Y, and this. Is this okay?" And like that was the bare minimum we were supposed to say. That's us doing our job. And they'd be like, and most of the time they'd be like, "Yeah, it's fine." But what I would do is like the parent would slide it across and be like, "So are you okay with like this game that's rated M because X, Y, and Z?" And then and the parent would be like, "Oh, like how bad? Oh, like I didn't know it had nudity. That was the big thing. Like you can anytime." I'm like, "Yeah." So there's like the kid's like, "Please don't say nudity." I'm like, "Oh, this game's rated M." She's like, "It's fine." I'm like, "It's rated M for blah blah blah, violence, drug use, and nudity." And they're like, "Wait, there's nudity in this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's strip clubs like on every corner." And then the kid's like, And the kid's looking at me like, fuck you. And I'm just like, and like,
You don't do this to me.
Yeah, the kid's like, and the mom's like, oh, the strip club's like, what is that like? Is that like part of the game? Like, or can he like avoid them? I'm like, kind of hard to avoid. I mean, they're like all over. Like, I think there's a bunch of missions where like you actually have to go into the strip clubs. And then the kid is just like, no, there's a setting you can turn off. And I'm like, nice try. There's no setting you can turn off in this fucking game. So now the mom's like, oh, well, we're not getting this. You could go pick out a different game. And then like, it was just slowly going down the list of games until this kid's got fucking Bully remastered on. I'm like, now this game is great. He's going to love this. Like,
oh God.
But I used to hate when they would do that to me. I remember when I worked before I worked at GameStop, I would actually go to the one that I used to work at. And the hiring manager who hired me when I was just a customer there, I was like 16 or 17, and she was very nice. But my Saints Row 3 came out and they are over the top. Like my dad is buying me this game. It just came out. I'm super excited to play it. He's like, the girls goes, you okay with rated M? Like, this game's rated M for violence, blah, 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 nudity. And then like, he goes, yeah. And then she looks my dad dead in the eyes and goes, there's a dildo baseball bat in this game. There's a dildo baseball bat. And my dad just looks at me with like the most like I'm just like, why? Like, why? Not like you're not going to play this, but why? And I go, yeah, I don't know. The game's weird. And my dad goes, it's fine. And then she goes, okay. And like the most judgmental face at me and my dad. And then she ended up hiring me when I turned 18. But it was really funny being a 16-year-old and having your dad look at you like you're going to hit people with a dildo baseball bat.
Like, yeah, wouldn't you? If you had one?
And then I got to live that when I worked there, like have just so much fun, just being like, oh man, like just grilling kids.
Wow. you grow up to become the thing you hated.
Oh yeah, but it's fun.
Oh,
I want to go back just to do it again.
Yeah, just sign up for a week, get like a paycheck just to fuck
like
with
a part-time. Yeah.
Nice. Can you think of any other games or?
I think Tony Hawk and all the Grand Theft Autos were like the main things for me.
Well, you know what? Let's just drop it right there because that was actually a perfect end to the episode. I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave anything out there.
Absolutely.
Dude, thank you so much. This is what I had a feeling this was going to be a good one, but I wasn't quite sure. Again, it's somebody who didn't have as much experience in it. But yeah, this was really fucking cool. I dug this.
Had a lot of fun, dude. It's always fun shooting the shit with you and video games and stuff. So it was great.
Absolutely, man. Remind everybody where they can find you on the internet.
Just, all socials, just Rob Stant Comedy.
All right. And you got any shows up you want to promote?
I mean tonight, but this will be out after that. So
no, this will be out next week.
When next week?
Huh?
Do you know when it will be out next week?
I'll probably drop it on like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, all right. I'll be at Punchline April 7th. So
perfect.
Check that out. That's a Thursday if you guys got nothing going on.
Awesome. So, all right, guys. Rob Stant. Gonna end this like I end every episode. We're gonna stop recording, but me and you can keep talking for a bit.
All right, sick.